Imagine being 17 years old, packing your bags and moving from your small village in France to a big city like London, not knowing how to speak English and moving on your own without family or friends and not knowing anything about this city. Well, this is my story and I'm happy to share it with you today. I'm going to talk about all the things from addictions to the loneliness, to constantly adapting to new environments. And I'm gonna bring you into my journey and what I've experienced by moving to London at 17 years old from my small village in France. If you don't know me, my name is Lara and my music name is Safi, and I'm very much into personal development and music. And I started this YouTube channel to put both together and connect with other people as well as share my story. I moved to London at 17 years old and I worked on cruise ships as a piano bar entertainer, traveling all around the world for the past 3 years. The first thing I'm going to talk about in this video is how I very quickly got into addictions, mainly tobacco and smoking weed and also some kind of drugs. And London is a very big city, there are lots of parties and it's very easy to get into these kind of things, especially when you're young and you don't really know yourself and you struggle with emotions that you don't really know how to deal with because you're young. So from 17 years old, the best way for me to make friends and to get socially accepted was to do parties, and obviously in these parties it was not just alcohol. I reflected a lot on my journey with addictions and I realized that they're all the same, no matter whether it's cigarettes or weed or drugs or even food or alcohol. It's all the same. It's just a way to escape from your emotions and it's a way to escape from yourself. I've recently quit alcohol and I'm gonna do another video talking about this topic. But London has definitely the #1 place where I've started getting into stuff that I shouldn't have been taking. And it can be tough sometimes, especially in London, because there are so many people who do it. There's so many people who take drugs and it's just so normalized that you just don't realize that this is not okay to do it and that you're just killing yourself slowly. I'm very grateful because I found a way to stop. I feel like I had an inner realization and inner breakthrough that was telling me if I keep taking drugs, my life will be very different from what I wanted it to be. This for me is the moment when I decided to quit drugs, but I kept smoking and partying, so I was drinking a lot of alcohol. This is a big part of moving to another environment. You're so uncomfortable with not knowing people. I didn't know the language, I didn't know anything, and you try to find stuff that make you feel comfortable. And for me it was addictions. That was my #1 way because I know I'm very vulnerable to addictions. But this is something to be very careful of, I think, whenever you move to another environment and where you don't have this stability anymore, you don't have these habits anymore. And for me, in my case, I didn't have my parents to tell me what to do anymore. I had just moved out of the family house. So yeah, that was a very intense experience, and I'm very grateful that I managed to get out of these addictions and to recover. The second thing I'm going to talk about is loneliness and creating friendships, which I found quite tough to do in London because it's a city where people very much come and go, and there are lots of international people, which I really love London for this reason. It's really amazing to see this many international people. I've struggled so much with creating good friendships. I didn't really have a good standard for that because in my childhood I didn't have many strong friendships. So I attracted lots of toxic friendships and I never really found a way to get stability in my relationships. It can be so lonely to be in a city that's not part of your country where you've grown up and to have to build everything from scratch there. So I've struggled a lot with loneliness and creating friendships, but it has taught me so much about learning how to socialize, learning how to be on my own. It taught me how to be resilient, and it taught me how to go out of my own way to get to know people, and I learned a lot of social skills in London, which I'm very grateful for. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is constant adaptability. This is something I've also experienced in my past couple of years working on cruise ships, where I constantly had to adapt to new environments. Every time I got on a ship, I didn't know anybody, I had to start my life from scratch again. And after each contract, I would go back to France, and again, I wouldn't have any stability. So I did 6 contracts, and it has taught me so much about learning how to adapt. When I moved to London, I thought I could speak English, but when I arrived there, I was like, oh, I'm struggling now, and I can't understand a word that people are saying. So I would just say, yeah, and I wouldn't understand anything that people are saying. And struggling with a language when you move to a country where you don't know the language is very hard. It's a very hard thing to do. But see, I'm so grateful because today you can see I can speak English properly, and I'm even maybe more comfortable in English than I am in French. It really created that international vibe in me, which I'm so grateful for, because this is so powerful in today's world, to be able to speak English and to be able to understand different cultures. And this is definitely something that London has been teaching me about life and about diversity and tolerance and learning how to accept people, no matter where they come from, no matter what their story is, no matter what they look like. And I'm very grateful for this part of what I've learned in London and on cruise ships. Through all these experiences, I've learned how to ground myself. I've learned how to be okay no matter where I am. And it's been something very tough for me to learn because I need security, I need stability. I'm very intense, I'm a very emotional person. And if you are too, you probably understand what it's like. The most beautiful part of my journey really was when I moved to this flat where I could create habits and create friendships that wouldn't end and be close to my family. Being far from everything when I moved to London definitely was a challenge. A lot of people have been very impressed by the fact that I moved to London at 17 years old. But the truth is that it was an escape for me. I was very unhappy in France, and I had been through stuff that I really wanted to get away from. And for me, moving to London at 17 was the easiest thing I've ever done, even though I've been through so many challenges. But the inner challenges I had been through in France had been way harder than the challenge of moving to London at 17 years old. I'm so grateful for learning English, for all the people I've met along the way, for all the lessons I've learned, for recovering from my addictions, and for the life lessons it taught me about diversity, resilience, adaptability, and tolerance. The struggle of being a musician and wanting to make a career out of music is also something that has been tied to London, where I've busked on the streets and I've done so many things to try and get a career in music. But I'm very grateful for it all, and I would definitely recommend moving to a new country if that's something you want to do. You'll learn so much about yourself, you'll learn so much about the world, and you'll learn so much about how to become a more adaptable person and resilient, and how to create friendships more easily, and how to create all the things you need in your life more easily. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any topics, idea of what I could talk about in my YouTube videos, feel free to share in the comments below. If you have any experience moving to a new country or moving to a new environment, feel free to share with me as well. You can follow me on social media at Safilara, and subscribe to my channel pressing the button just below. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.